Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here. My next Korra Book 3 Change episode review. This one's going to be for K309 The Stakeout. So obviously this is the first episode of Korra to be released, digital only. It's not going to air on TV, so it's going to be the same for the rest of the book and Book 4 as well. Yeah, just you'll probably know just by the time this video is up that the episode's not up on Nick.com yet. Amazon have actually put the episode up early, like I think it was a good 8 hours before it actually is going to go up on Nick.com. And obviously people have put the episode up online since then. That's why I watched it earlier. So it works out really well for me that basically I'm able to watch the episode effectively 12 hours before I'm able to do otherwise. It means I'm able to record my initial reaction YouTube video like this on Friday instead of having to wait to Saturday because they are so late over here usually if they're on TV. But yeah, so in that sense, for me, it's going to be a lot easier to cover the book because there's only one episode each week from here on out, and I'm going to be able to get some of the stuff done on Friday because usually my weekends are very busy with podcasts and stuff like that. But yeah, that out of the way, let's get into this episode. This was a really good episode overall. I said in my speculation video that what I wanted and needed from this episode was some answers about the Red Lotus, some hints about where the series is going from here on out, and that's exactly what the episode gave me. Primarily, this episode I think is going to be remembered for the Zahir Korra conversation that basically takes up the last 7 or so minutes of the episode. It's a really amazing kind of interaction between these two characters. I will say, the Red Lotus still have the problem of Zahir being the only one who's really has any character development. The other three are kind of blank slates right now, though they're still interesting just from a fighting perspective, which is probably my first point about the episode. Just the fights, primarily what we got here was Mako and Bolin against Minghua and Gazan. And it was a really cool fight scene because you could see that the more powerful benders were Minghua and Gazan because Gazan has lava bending and Bolin only has earth bending, and him earth bending basically gives Gazan more earth, easier earth to bend into lava to fight Bolin with, so that was a huge kind of disadvantage for Bolin. While Mako and Minghua was more of an even fight, but just I suppose her extra connection with her element due to it basically being like her arms that gave her the victory in the end, but it was a lot closer. I think there's a lot of potential for this to be a very kind of personal battle over the next few episodes where they either fight each other two on two another time, one more time, and maybe the result is reversed, or a few more times, eventually resulting in Mako and Bolin getting the win. Because I think there's a lot of potential for Bolin to either just learn something new with earthbending to take out Gazan, or finally learn metal bending and take out Gazan. Because what we know about Gazan, what he can do, but what we don't know just yet is Gazan also a metal bender? Can he bend metal? Can he lava bend metal? And I suppose the main thing is, if Bolin puts up a wall of metal instead of a wall of earth, what can Gazan do to it? Like, is his lava blocked, as we kind of saw in the last episode with the metal walls blocking it apparently, or can he melt them if he kind of does it enough? So that'll be an interesting conflict. I think Bolin finally getting metal bending will be the way he eventually beats Gazan. And then Mako, I think just him do something clever with regards to lightning bending and water would be a really cool way to take out Minghua, especially because her bending is part of her arm, so the water's always connected to her. It'd be the perfect way to do it. She grabs him by the arms and he just generates lightning and kind of takes her out that way. That'd be really cool because lightning's kind of been diminished in terms of its power over the course of Korra so far, and Mako getting the win over Minghua via lightning bending would be a really cool way to kind of reverse the result in that fight. And then there's still the potential of Korra hasn't obviously fought anyone of the Red Lotus yet because she was knocked out last episode and she was in the spirit world this episode. And then of course we still have Lin and potentially Suyin to do more stuff going on in the book. But Yeah, that's a fight out of the way. What I really want to talk about here is just the Red Lotus stuff. We finally got the mention of what the Red Lotus is, big explanation from Zahir, and what I loved about this scene between Zahir and Korra in the spirit world was that even though he's the villain kind of this book, um, he doesn't really have any massive issue with Korra. He kind of their whole plan has been like for 13 years that they wanted to capture Korra and basically influence her so that she can be the avatar for the Red Lotus instead of the White Lotus, and just kind of preach a kind of different ideal in the world rather than what Korra's doing right now. And so that's kind of what they want to use her for now, kind of to. She has a very important role as the avatar, and so they obviously want to use her for that. There's still a little bit of mystery over what exactly they want to do with her now once they have her captured, but we'll see as we go along. Either way, we get the Red Lotus is this thing set up by this guy called Xiaobo. I can't remember how to pronounce the word right now. But anyway, it's this space place in the spirit world is named after this guy apparently, and he created the Red Lotus because he I think deserted the Order of the White Lotus because they went up against their ideals. And I like that the whole creation of the Red Lotus links into the Order of the White Lotus and what it's become in Korra. In that, the one thing I think every Avatar fan has said is that the Order of the White Lotus is completely different to what we've seen before. They're not really likable like they were like amazing and epic in Avatar: The Last Airbender. This time around, Zahir's kind of true in what he says. They have kind of become glorified bodyguards, and they've kind of lost sense of what their real ideals were with Iroh and the whole, it descends the nation's boundaries and it's a group for all people, and they kind of are that, but just being such a big organization now, they don't seem to have the same sort of mystique that they have. And now the Red Lotus, being a kind of smaller organization, kind of has that again, but they're kind of again have extreme ideals, kind of like Unalaq. Even though last book Unalaq had a general point about spirits should be in the human world, and Korra took that to heart, but Unalaq's ideals were extreme. It's the same with Zahir here in what he says, in that his main problem, the Red Lotus, what they're for is they're against corrupt governments and these people in power abusing their power, because he says what did he say, the president was like idiotic or something like that, Raiko, which I think everyone's been saying. The queen is tyrannical, which is completely true. That's the perfect word to describe her. And again, even Unalaq, as the leader of the kind of North and South last book, was much the same. Now with Tonraq in power, she obviously is related to one of the rulers of the world. Eska and Desna, I think, are more on Korra's side now, so she's got that. We assume the Fire Lord Zuko's daughter is going to be on Korra's side, but they're still world leaders in the world in huge positions of power that are causing issues in the Avatar world. He brings up the point of the Airbenders wouldn't need to be rebuilt if it wasn't for what Sozin did in the position of power, being the Fire Lord, and what that meant going through Azulon, Ozai, and so on. But it's an interesting concept, because the big thing that this Korra overall has presented us is that Korra has been kind of alienated in terms of her role as the Avatar, because the positions of power in the world are becoming less respectful of the Avatar and more kind of out for themselves. Especially Raiko with the presidential stuff has very much been focused more on keeping his position in office rather than doing what's best for the world, and that the whole Unavati situation could have potentially been averted before it even happened if he had supported Korra when she came to him the second time. But he wouldn't do that. And then, again, the point about the Fire Lords is very valid, but what I like overall about the conversation was that it was kind of equal. Like, Zahir wasn't trying to be the villain, he just kind of sat down there and meditated, answered all of Korra's questions, and it was a really interesting kind of way to take the villain in this book and not make him like tyrannical or like super evil, just that he has these ideals. Korra doesn't quite agree with him, so that's why he's kind of her enemy, but he's willing to explain his ideals to her for the first time. And Korra, if this was book one Korra, you wouldn't have had this conversation because she wouldn't have been mature enough to have it. But this time round, you can see how much she's matured, in that as much as she hates the Earth Queen, as much as she hates Raiko and all these other people because of the way they've done things in the world, she doesn't. She's not against the idea of taking them out to kind of put the world in chaos, taking out the idea of world leaders. Now, it is important to note, actually, in terms of the whole Su Yin situation, like, is she good, is she bad? She had one scene in this episode, and the scene didn't in any way hint at her being evil. She just told Lin, it was kind of a bit of a joke, you know, like, I can't believe you did this, stabbed me in the back, and she's like, oh, it's fine, it's fine. They're just going to get Ai back. But obviously he's lost in the fog of lost souls now, so they probably can't get him back. And so the one scene from one of the previous episodes, I think it was what was it called? The Metal Clan, episode 5. Korra and Sue talk about. Well, it's at the dinner table actually. Sue starts talking about politics and how she's against the idea of a queen. She thinks it's outdated. They're the exact, basically, ideals of the Red Lotus, that they're against the idea of world leaders and they want kind of chaos in the world, just everyone ruling themselves, apparently. I'm not really sure what the plan for ruling is once they take out the world leaders. That's probably the part where their whole philosophy goes wrong. But that's another thing that adds to the potential for Sue being bad, in that she has the same philosophies as the Red Lotus, even though we're not quite sure she's a part of it just yet. Who knows what'll happen. But she asked Korra to think about the idea of, you know, what do you think? Do you think the idea of a queen is outdated in this world? And she said, I hadn't really thought about it. And yet when she's forced to think about it here with Zahir, she's like, no, chaos in the world is bad. Like, as much as these people are doing bad things, chaos is not what the world needs. It needs balance. And obviously she's more talking about, you know, working it out with these people, talking through these situations and creating peace that way. Kind of the Aang style, I suppose, of being the Avatar. And it was very mature from her, but I suppose there's still more to come out about this whole situation. Even just the idea of another Guru Lahima quote about that you can't really kind of start anew unless you tear down what's going to come before. And that came from an airbender. That's presented to her, and she's like shocked at that. At some point in Air Nomad history, this philosophy was presented, and like, you kind of wonder, does Tenzin know about this, and how does that then bring the Air Nomads into things? Again, it adds into the whole idea of, we didn't see the Airbenders this episode, but what will they do when they come back into things? We get the sense that they may end up kind of having to take on the Earth Queen because of various captures that have occurred in this episode. So will they end up kind of the Air Nation in saving Korra or something like that? It basically takes out the role of an Earth Queen in the Earth Kingdom? I'm not really sure. There's so much that this concept presents of basically this, again, not really like a kid's plot of the whole idea of like a really deep kind of political kind of situation here of like, are world leaders right to have in the world? Like, that's a deep talking point and very complex. So there's a lot going on here, and there's a lot to speculate about, and I think that's the main thing about these last few episodes, is that in giving us a few of the answers, there's so much more to talk about in these episodes. But yeah, it was just a really cool scene, and then even just the fact that they're in the spirit world was cool. The nice little bit of mystery there. This place isn't on the map. Where is it? And then when they're looking at the map, the spirits land on it, and you kind of should get the sense that like the spirit is saying, you know, like, it's not in this world, it's in our world. And then Korra figures it at the end. But it's just a cool situation that they go in. Iway's kind of hasn't escaped yet, and it just turns out, wait, he's there, but he has kind of escaped to the spirit world, and Korra follows. Zahir's already there. He takes out Iway by throwing him in the fog of lost souls, and you just sort of wonder, like, how does he have that power where he's able to just kind of teleport between places in the spirit world? And then you kind of go, but wait, they've kind of been setting up this whole Jinora technique, airbending / spirit technique, where you can, at least in the physical world, kind of project your spirit somewhere. Is this what that ability is in the spirit world, but more of like without the airbending bit, and you can kind of use that here? So I kind of wonder if they're going to explain that, because Korra didn't seem to be able to follow him or know what he was doing. So he's clearly a lot more skilled than we gave him credit for. But yeah, Zahir really came on a lot as a character here. But again, as I said, the problem is that he's the only character in the Red Lotus so far. Even Aiwei is more of a character than Gazan, Pali, and Minghua. Pali had a little moment when when Zahir told them, like, Korra is here, find her. Pali ordered them to go, and she said she's going to stay here and guard Zahir's body. She really does care about Zahir because they're obviously boyfriend girlfriend, so that's interesting. Wonder where that will go. But yeah, then the rest of the episode is primarily just the ending and then the bit at the start in the Misty Farms Oasis. There's some funny moments just with the whole costumes and Bolin coming up with the alter ego of like Ting Ting, and then Mako being super serious, not going along with it, just saying, I'm a cop, I don't have a backstory, and then Bolin's like, ooh, that's the best backstory of all, mysterious guy, and it's just like, that was hilarious, and then with the giant yellow ponchos and the goggles on, it was really fun. Not to mention the joke of there's apparently bounty hunters around, but they're not bounty hunters, they're just fans of Nuktuk and wanted his autograph. That was hilarious. Then, I suppose coming towards more the end of the episode, the idea that the plan was for Minghua and Gazan to capture Korra, but instead we see that Asami, Naga, and Korra are captured, but they're captured by the Earth Queen's forces and not Zahir and Co. So it presents the idea that Zahir and Co. being against Red Lotus, or being against world leaders, especially the Earth Queen, who he says is tyrannical. He hates the idea of world leaders. So we're in this interesting position where there's a kind of a three-way kind of thing. There's Team Avatar, the Earth Queen, and the Red Lotus, all kind of against each other in a way. And it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Like, will there be any team-ups? Will Korra have to fight for the Earth Queen? Will Zahir reluctantly join up with the Earth Queen to get Korra, or whatever? Will it just be a kind of three-way battle or something like that going on? Either way, apparently the Earth Queen has two of the people she wanted, but we're also in the position where Mako and Bolin have been captured by the Red Lotus, so Team Avatar, again, like, there's this kind of funny thing over the course of Korra where Team Avatar is back together again. Oh no, they've been taken out within one episode and they're captured again. So there's a funny thing. I wish we'd had more time with them, but I assume we'll get like a breakout and they'll all come back together again, because I think lots of fights need to happen. And then of course Lynn has to come back into things. She stormed out of that scene with Sue. Looks like she's going to get in the action. We know there's some fight scenes coming up, so how's that going to get involved? We didn't see anything with Tenzin and the Airbenders or Opal arriving, so I assume that has to happen, potentially next episode. And will they find out Korra's been captured? What will they do? There's a ton of stuff set up in this book that nothing's happened with yet, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. Final thing to really talk about, I think, from the episode is just the Pai Show scenes. More towards the middle of the episode, I'm surprised they gave it so much time. Like, there was a lot of time spent on it, but it was really cool to just see the game being played a little bit. But I suppose a lot of fans will be very disappointed. I was a little bit, just with the fact that, even in universe, there's no exact rules for the game, so that kind of like almost puts out like any idea of like us being given the rules of this thing, kind of like we were given like a rule book for pro bending. Like, I'd love to be given a rule book for Pai Show and understand how to play, just so we could play a game from the show. But no, even in universe they said, every nation has a different way to play the game and stuff like that. It's changed in 10,000 years it's existed. But they did kind of present the whole idea of it's about patience, but there's also a level of chance. And then you had Asami being the strategic one playing it versus Bolin, who's kind of playing more by chance, really quick moves. And then it's all about kind of being patient, understanding what your opponent's going to do, and Asami's better suited to that, and she kind of got that. So that may be more set up for Bolin again, though, that he has to learn not just like in the middle of a fight, just fighting, by the seat of your pants kind of thing, but just understanding what your opponent's going to do and using that to profit, because again, he even noticed in the fight with Gazan that what he was doing was that he was on the defensive, putting up earth walls to protect himself from lava, but in doing so was making more ammo for Gazan. So if he, say, invented metal bending, learned metal bending, he could stop that from happening and maybe fight Gazan more equally. He could even just completely approach it a different way, and not use much earth or something like that. Who knows? But either way, this was a very good episode. I thought this was probably one of the best episodes of the book so far, just because it has really got things going. Like the kind of tension atmosphere in the series right now has just kind of ratcheted up now. We are approaching the end now. Big stuff is happening. We know who the villains are, more or less. Can't wait to see what happens in the next episode. Can't believe it's just like a week plus to wait for the next episode. But yeah, as I said, that's my review basically. If you want more thoughts on the episode, we will be reviewing this episode on the Avatar Online podcast this Sunday. We're doing the review, so we're going to be reviewing the Stakeout and the podcast this weekend. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say. So thanks for watching this video, and bye.